Welcome to Your Brain Express podcast. I'm your host, CJ Allen.
And I'm Carl Allen.
And together, we will take you on a journey to where entrepreneurship meets culture and cool.
So get ready to elevate and expand your entrepreneurial spirit as we explore the dynamic and ever-changing landscape of the business world.
So, sit back, relax, and join us as we bring to you the ultimate vibe and help you experience your brand like never before. Let's get it. Woo!
All right, everyone. We're hanging out. With Trike Call Funk. How's it going, everyone? How's it going, guys?
What up?
It's great.
Doing good.
Nice. Right on. Dude, it's great to have you guys, man. I'm so excited about this episode.
Thank you for having us in the mix, Carl. You know, it was Dance that brought us together through Beantown Lockers not too long ago. And we are just so happy to be connected with you and to be a part of your podcast. So thank you for the opportunity.
Right on. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Unfortunately, CJ can't be with us today. He might even pop in at some point. He's getting ready to go to his appointment. I hope he's on time. Anyways, he sends his regards. And
all the
today,
best to CJ.
All the best to CJ. All the best.
The prodigious, multi-talented.
That dude. Oh, he got some things coming up. I got to fill you guys in too. He's doing some cool things with what he's doing, man. Ah, it's exciting.
I believe it. We see it. And thank you for being such an inspiration. You, your son, and the whole fam.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, hey, fellas, let's kick this off. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what a Trike Call Funk is about? What do you do? Who you serve?
Ed to the word. You want us to get us started on the good foot?
Yeah, sure. So Tribe Called Funk is something that me and Aaron envisioned during the pandemic. We were stuck inside, like all of us, right? And we saw that there was a need for people to get funky outside in in settings that were safe at that time. And we also saw an opportunity to be a bridge between artists and businesses that were also trying to bring people back together to sort of, collaborate, create paid gig opportunities for the artists, bring attention to those businesses. So that was kind of our intention going into it. So we built out this tricycle that you see here behind me, and you could also see it on Aaron's screen there. So basically, a Trike Call Funk is a mobile pop-up party platform. I mean, there's a lot of ways we talk about it, but that's one way. We built out this trike with its own sound system, has a portable dance floor, battery so that we're not tethered to any one space, and we have also a freestanding sort of frame where we can also have like live art happening simultaneously while we're doing the music and dance. So yeah, we collaborate with tons of artists, whether they be DJs, other dancers, or visual artists. And Aaron, I'll let you kind of take the rest.
That was a great summary, Edward. I would just add at a high level, Carl, that our aims are to unleash creativity, to foster connectivity, and build community everywhere we pedal and park through these participatory, community-based experiences in music, movement, and as Edward said more recently, even in paint.
I love that. And I love what you all do. I've experienced Trike Call Funk, and we've done some stuff together.
Yes.
Excited. I wanted to give our audience a chance to experience this experience, because what you all do is unique, it's different. And even hearing the story from the pandemic to now and how you've been able to move the crowds in any gathering. And you even work with corporate companies too, right?
Once in a while, yes. I mean, there's a few who share our community building ethos, creatively building community in the ways we describe. But for the most part, it tends to be nonprofit organizations in the arts and
Hmm.
culture space, to a certain extent, even into the environmental stewardship space,
Hmm.
and City of Boston departments primarily that also steward public spaces, from artistic ones to environmental ones. So that's kind of the spectrum of the spaces we activate and the kind of entities with which we partner.
Love it. And do you all also, 'cause I'm curious, do you all also still do the marketing for specific brands as well? Like you have a space on the trike too?
Sometimes, yeah. So
Hmm.
that's the creative advertising
Mm.
dimension of a trike called funk. So whether we are rolling out, popping up, and getting down in a fixed location, or if we are providing the vibes along a walk, run, or ride, sometimes we visually wrap the trike in the name, brand, colors, logo of whoever is sponsoring us. And that's for a small add-on fee, but those are fees that we use to cover our costs and also share with the artists with whom we collaborate that help to create these experiences. Because it's not always just Eddie on the ones and twos and me on the dance floor and on the mic. Often we're inviting other people in specializing in other genres of music. It's guest DJs, other dance leaders specializing in other dance forms, and mostly graffiti writers as it relates to our visual arts experiences. But yes, we do that. We have done that for REI here locally. We have done it for Gooder, a sunglasses company that is based out of California, but that did an event here. That was one of those fun runs. And we've even done it for some of the nonprofits with whom we partner. And in those cases, it's more about visually, but also when I'm on the mic verbally, amplifying what is the mission of those organizations that are sponsoring us. That includes like Boston Harbor Now or Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. Those are a couple of examples in the environmental space that are doing things from the harbor islands to the beach sides to even the parks occasionally as well. And we like to be able to be provide that creative advertising, but I would say it's also experiential marketing in a way, because certainly they see it visually, they hear it verbally, but by way of the affinity, the positive experience they have in the context of our activations, we hope that they will also come to more fully appreciate the organizations that are sponsoring us and that share our values as it relates to community building.
Mm. That's cool. I love how you said experiential, and I think about the whole idea of experience. You guys, with all of that in there, there's a lot in there, which is fantastic, and it really builds each party up. It builds the community, it brings the community together, and it builds them up, and you're able to allow them to experience a great time at a high level. That's empowering, man.
I appreciate that. Above all, we're trying to be accessible. I mean, that's why I know as part of our dance experience has been we're often on stage and then there's the audience looking on, maybe appreciating, clapping, or laughing at us, some combination
Right.
thereof. And ultimately, there's a part of our practice with Beantown Lockers that Carl, you co-founded, and we had the opportunity to join 2016, the president, is that we would always try to break down that barrier between the performers and the audience and bring people in to the experience that we were creating through our shows. And so that in part was the inspiration for having a track called Funk be ground level, community based. Anybody can step up and onto the dance floor. Even if you get around with a mobility assist device, to other things, we want the space to feel welcoming to everyone. And we've got simple prompts to bring people in to dance with us. But we also have the other options, like including the visual art, hands-on art making experiences, because we've also learned that not everybody necessarily wants to dance. So, but they will tap into it with you if you give them another option that is visual and hands-on as opposed to dance and on the floor.
Right, right. Because everyone learns differently too. We got the
That's right.
visual there, you get the visual, you got the auditory, and you got the kinesthetic. You got it
Yes,
all in there, all in the trike.
that's the
And it's
holy
all
trinity on
funky.
Wheels Times 3.
Oh, dude, that is fire, man. I love that. And it's cool because, of course, with this podcast, we're rebranding actually. And it was focused on coaches and authors and speakers and helping people to see how businesses express their brands, right? But with us, this is perfect, and I love it. Totally resonates because it's the idea, and where we're going towards now is, hey, it's where culture meets the business world, and it's community, and community is so needed because at the end of the day, we're individuals connecting with people. We're humans connecting with one another. And so
Yes.
using that experience of music and the arts, right? And you have different options, and you just have that heightened experience at that moment where, interestingly enough, people won't always, I'm pretty sure you might think this too, let me know if I'm wrong, but people may not always know how to articulate it, but they sure do feel it, and they sure do
Yes.
experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, you bet. I was going to say, I think brand is a reflection of values. Ultimately, when I think about branding, the intersection of business and culture, there's a set of
Mm.
values that are unique to different cultures. There's a set of values that are unique to different businesses. And again, I think the intersection of the two for us is where is it, the community building nexus, essentially.
Mm.
And I think the by way of accumulated, I think it's not just the values, but it is how you experience the values. So it's the experience you have in the context of one of our activations, whether you're enjoying the musical dimension, the dance dimension, the visual arts dimension,
Yeah.
participating to a different degree in any one of those three. But it is also the visual representation of brands. So I'm surrounded by a constellation of brands right, that have been inspirations for what we do with the Trike Call Funk. Started with Beantown Lockers, the Trike Call Funk, and then you can see the trike itself. And there's even for the black and white zebra print a certain rhythm and feeling about it. So I think it is all these things at its core. It is values, but it is the intangible experience and feeling that you get by way of participating or simply viewing something. But it is also the visual representation, and you could even go on and on into the details about colors and what they suggest, what they represent, the configuration of shapes, forms, even being caricatures, as you see Eddie and I are in one version of our logo here, or if I shift over to the trike itself, it gives it a whimsical feel when you move it into a caricature medium, as opposed to being the direct and live photo. Certainly, we aspire to be that in real life, but we want the brand, by way of caricature, the colors and everything else, it suggests a playfulness, an element of fun. And parenthetically, if you add the parentheses and the K in the middle, through funk.
Through funk. Through funk.
Yeah,
That's right, baby. Yes.
that's it.
And that makes me proud because, it's, I find, I'm not sure if you all find this too, even since after the pandemic, there's more of an appreciation to music and coming together as communities and people experiencing a good time. And so it's, thank you all for what you do.
Oh, we appreciate it. No one better to talk about music than Eddie.
Hey.
Yeah, and Carl, you have been teaching dance in Boston for such a long time, so you've definitely done more than your part in creating this community. um I wouldn't have met Aaron or any of the Beantown Lockers if it wasn't for you, and you holding it down. That's right. um yeah, so appreciate you, man.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's keep the exchange going, man. We let's keep it going till like we're old men. How about that?
Yeah, let's go. Because we're not there yet.
We're not there yet, so we got our walkers.
Carl, I did want to say one other thing that's
Sure.
important that I think you're even doing, and you're illustrating this just by way of inviting us onto your podcast, is to support other artists in our community. And so
Mm.
you're affording us a platform to reach your network, those who are already tuned in and connected to you, to share a bit about what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. And that opens up new possibilities and opportunities. We try to do the same thing as well. I mean, for example, even by what we wear, like I've got on something that Lady Ice created. She's an amazing dancer in our community. We've had the good fortune of collaborating with her for some of our activations where she came in, was one of the featured artists as a part of the dance dimension of our activation. This is Supreme Scenes, Christine Ho, who's an incredible entrepreneur that made this. We have other friends that are more in the world of graphic design, but also dancers, and that includes Brian Bello. In a second on Instagram is his alias, and he's the one who created the caricature logo, not only of Eddie and I, but of the trike itself as well.
Funky.
And so it's just to say there is a part of our aim by way of creating these activations and seeking sponsorship from nonprofits, from city government departments, and occasionally for-profits, is to be able to share the proceeds and the revenues at a level that honors the time, talent, and the artistry of the people, the creatives, guest DJs, dancers, graffiti writers that are helping us to create these diverse experiences, multidisciplinary, various types of art. And so we're really proud of that. In our 2.5 years of existence, we've created 120 plus paid gig opportunities for local artists, whether that's from the visual side to the turntables to the dance floor. That's something that we're always pushing for in a way that helps us sustain creative livelihoods. And you're doing the same for us by giving us a chance to be in dialogue with you, because otherwise people are simply moving with us, right? Getting down with us, creating with us, and we don't always have the opportunity for these moments of reflection about our purpose and how it brings together that world of business and culture. And that is the one way which we do it, by including other artists, and in a way also that is culturally resonant for the occasion, for the audience and the community where our activations take place. We're not just picking anybody. We're picking people who make sense, right? Given all of those considerations, and ultimately trying to compensate them at or above what they would get anywhere else, because we think that gives lift to everybody. And we hope that at a larger level, our impact is also people get inspired enough by who is collaborating with us to seek them out thereafter, to take classes with them, to become a part of their community of practice, and ultimately to sustain the tradition that our collaborating artists are a part of. Because we recognize they represent something much bigger, but that is also what they bring towards our experience, that makes them, we think, so rich, so dynamic, and hopefully inspiring for people. And Eddie, it sounds like you have something to add.
Oh yeah, I mean, just tagging off of what you just said. You know, for instance, locking. When I moved back to Boston, you know, it's like, man, who's doing locking out here? You know, that was one of the first things that I was just interested in, because I had been a part of you know, I had kind of dabbled in locking when I was living in the Bay, and the first name that I heard, you know, mentioned was, oh yeah, I think someone named Carl teaches. I was like, Carl, and then I looked more into it, and I was like, Carl Lee. Oh, I know Carl Lee. You know, and it's amazing, like, you know, that we reconnected over this dance after so many years. Me and Carl know each other from way back in the day. And you know, for me, like, I see, you know, the work that you are doing and so many others of keeping these traditions alive as it's crucial. It's like, you know, there's not going to be a ton of scholarly books written, like history, right? Probably about this stuff. You know, the way that mostly we're keeping these things alive is through just doing it, through our bodies, actually being out there and teaching others to do these dances, teaching others about the music, which is for me, my passion. Getting people to also to see the continuity all the way, you know, whether you're starting in the continent, Africa, right? Or starting at the blues, all the way to jazz, to funk, to hip hop, right? Getting people to see, you know, the contributions of particular African Americans and Latinos and other communities that are marginalized and not appreciated enough in our society. To me, that's also super important and central as to why we choose to elevate hip hop, elevate funk, elevate graffiti, all these things that society in many ways has undervalued or looked down on. And also, you know, for me is also very important. You know, hip hop now is pretty mainstream, But I think that there's a lot of people who kind of differentiate between let's say rap or mainstream hip hop and real hip hop.
Right.
And I think that I definitely um, feel very proud to be a part of a community that is really trying to maintain a lot of the essence of what bringing in the music, bringing in the b-boys, bringing in the graffiti, everything, and the MCing, right? Bringing in all the
Right.
elements to maintain the integrity of like the real hip hop, right? Um, because we live in a society where that stuff gets lost, with all the commercialization, and people just they lose track of the values and the cultural knowledge that was really being passed on. So yeah, all of those things are also important factors and important considerations that we have in mind when we're doing what we're doing.
Love it. Love it. Now, I love what you guys stand for and what you're doing, and it's important because, like, even you mentioned with the culture and how it's easy to be um, not appreciated. It's brought out when it's convenient. So
Mhm.
therefore, you need people from our communities to be able to express it. And say, by the way, I express it, but by the way, you treat me fairly,
Absolutely.
as opposed to you're a commodity, which is what
Yeah.
which is what people get. So, and that's one of the things, even for me as I'm an artist. We do this podcast. I love being in the business world, but I'm an artist first. I love pointing out those distinctions, those things that may be obvious, but it's so easy. It's important to illuminate the obvious because it's easy to forget, and it's, like you mentioned, easy to get lost in the sauce. I kind of put my own words in there, but you know.
Yeah.
So I love it, man. I'm all for it, man. All for it. And so let's talk about community. Let's when you so Can you guys share with us, this community, how, or this audience, how music has been a powerful tool in bringing communities together in your experience?
Yeah. Go. You want to start? Yeah.
Sure, I can give it a shot, though. I think a DJ as our Edward as our resident DJ and lead on technology
Resident
is the
DJ.
best position so to respond. But I would say that music, I mean, think about it, even in the absence of a Tribe Called Funk, because we are thinking about, well, why is music so powerful? I remember us stumbling when we were going through a business incubator. This is when a Tribe Called Funk was merely a figment of imagination in our mind at the time. We hadn't launched it yet. We were preparing to, but we had to come up with some research as to why music. And we were thinking, and we came across some studies that were talking about, even, for example, in the everyday spaces we frequent, from the grocery store to retail spaces, music provides an opportunity for you to experience a space differently, more positively, and with a greater likelihood of engaging. Now, in stores, that means paying for something, buying something. You're more inclined because you're in a positive state of mind. And
Right.
music kind of induces that, right? It brings that possibility. But for us, we wanted to translate it into community-based settings in order to connect people. Because again, this came together against the backdrop of the pandemic, where the prevalent thing was social isolation, the deterioration of mental health. And
Mm,
we're human. We need one another. We're social. I mean, to different degrees for different people. But we just
right.
recognize music as a powerful means to bring people back together and to bring joy back into people's lives coming through and out of the pandemic. So it was not for commercial gain. We're looking to leverage music. We think we like a type of music that, as Eddie was saying, is perhaps less appreciated, yet we find it is very rich. And we're trying to share our love for that music, and by extension, the dances that are associated with it, by way of the people we collaborate with, even when it goes beyond our spectrum of sort of funk through hip hop. But it's just to say, I mean, there's a lot of research that substantiates how powerful music is in shifting our mind state. And I think if you think of music as one dimension of culture, culture also, I think the power of culture is its power to shift power as well.
Mm,
So people associated with certain traditions that are not necessarily celebrated well, we try to flip that a little on its head and say, no, these people are brilliant, and here's why, and just give them the platform and the opportunity to share their artistry with the world, in a way that people will hopefully also be inspired and will fully appreciate them and the tradition from which they come, the music that they hadn't heard, for example, the dance they'd never seen or didn't know about. Um, so that's the spirit in which we're leveraging music. We just think it opens up these kinds of possibilities for connectivity in the communities we frequent. How
Love it.
about for you, Eddie? I mean, from the behind the ones and twos.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to say is that I can't remember if it was a Facebook comment or something, but the one of the moments that brought me the most joy and hearing it from somebody, an OG in our community was hearing, a Tribe Called Funk has been one of the best things that's happened to the Boston dance scene, in a while. And just to hear that, we were able to contribute something, to our this scene of street and club dancers, and make it such that, there's more gig opportunities, there's more just opportunities to get together, get down, um, and just I think back to one event that we had in Somerville. It was like I can't remember what we call it, something, summer bash or something. We had dancers from all over the state, even from Rhode Island, all coming together to celebrate, to just connect over music, great music. We had Lino and Bruno, right? DJ Bruno that day. I
Nice.
just felt so good, seeing not only people from all over the state, but also people from different disciplines. You had crumpers there, you had house dancers there, you had breakers, lockers, poppers. And that's also like part of our aim, along with just like connecting everyday people. Like, we want to be also a bridge between artists who are working in different disciplines. You have the dancers, DJs, right, which often go together, but even the bringing together again the dance and the visual arts,
Right.
and beyond. We're not done sort of cooking up ways to bring different artists together. That there's so many creative people out there. That's kind of what makes, for me, this venture so exciting, is that, like, wow, like there's so many opportunities to bring together these different art forms.
Right.
We're just like sort of started touching on them.
Just getting started.
Yeah.
That's powerful, and it's powerful what music does. And it's so I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer that it's important to spell it out, and I feel like you guys spell it out for people. Whether they could articulate that or not, because if it's not spelled out, people forget about it. It's one of those things, because it's like and even with A.a.Ron, you mentioned going to the shopping center. I think about that, and I'm like, I have my groove on. I'm in Target or something like that, or Stop and Shop, and I'm like, oh, I'm moving through the space. Where if I didn't have the music, and it wouldn't allow my creative side to navigate through it. Something I have to get done for my family or for myself. I have to get something real quick as I'm going to where I'm going from into. So
Yes.
though it's one of those things that's just easy to take for granted, but again, it's so important. And one thing I think about too, I was talking to someone within the last 2 weeks, and I said, you know what? Music's important because music saves lives. I remember
Mm,
back in the 90s and the late 80s where you hear people say the Whitney Houston or other artists like that. When you sang, or Mary J. Blige, when you sang that song, I was thinking about committing suicide, or I was thinking
wow.
about blank. And
Hmm.
that was talked about a lot. I don't hear it talked about as much anymore. Could be because of a lot of the pop music now, the quality, but that's a big deal, and it's easy to forget
Yeah.
about that. But
Hmm.
but yet again, it's one of those things that literally saves lives.
Yeah, and I think at time it's the message. For us, I mean, building upon the message, our hope is like we could do even more for and with community, because it is with community that is where the value, where we experience the true value. Because I think it's fostering a sense of belonging, a broader sense of belonging. I think that's the essence of what we need. Yeah, it is the message. It speaks to you at a certain time and phase of your life, something you're
Mm-hmm.
going through. It helps you see it differently. I've heard people say the same thing about hip hop culture, whether it's one element of hip hop or another. I think the arts broadly have that capacity,
Right.
but I think what we recognize about the arts, and while we try to tap into multiple disciplines of arts because we think the sum of them is greater than their parts. It's not music and dance is 1 + 1 = 2, or music, dance, and graffiti or visual adds up to 3. We think it's a multiple of that because there's so much synergy between them. They end up amplifying one another.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And what we think that lends to is strengthening the social fabric of the places where we pop up and get down, even if it's just for a moment. We've actually made a connection that will hopefully people will revisit in some capacity and another time and place, and ultimately just feel a greater sense of belonging, affinity for one another, affinity for the music, affinity for dance or the visual.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's to the benefit of our connectivity with one another, or things that we might not have experienced before or might not have seen in a certain light that now we see in a more positive light. But belonging is just the word that occurs to me, that like where we're trying to be, or
Right.
it's more of
Yeah.
what we would like to see.
Yeah.
Sense of
I'll
belonging.
just
Yeah.
I'll just add that you said like we kind of spell it out very explicitly, right? And I think you really have to in this day and age because music or art, the arts, like anything, right? It's in some ways it's sort of it just is. It can be value neutral. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad.
Right.
And I think that one thing that I would say we've definitely noticed about humans is that um, if left to sort of their own devices, they will seek vices. And when you just, well, you can consume anything here, here's a bunch of candy and junk food, and here's like veggies and stuff like that. People go for people go for the sweets, people go for the salty stuff, people go for a lot of times things that are not great for them. And I think that there is an increasing need for cultural curators and people who recognize not only is there art, but there actually is like value judgments that can be made about the art and how much positive energy or whatever they bring to a space. And
Right.
so I always aim to try to do that through my music that I play at gigs. You it comes out through the encouraging words and the positivity that Aaron's displaying as he MCs and interacts with the crowd. We really try to be very explicit about that.
Love that. That's powerful. I mean, that brings healing to people. And I think about I dare say too that it makes you all leaders, like with what you're doing, the role you have, you're leaders in your community. You're leading people towards you're being a beacon of light, and you're a lighthouse leading people towards a direction. And that they walk away from that opportunity, they walk away feeling good. Feel good music, feel good speaking, feel good communication towards me. A.a.Ron doing the emceeing, the arts. You watching someone do the work while music's being played. There's so much that's being communicated there, and it's all uplifting. So you're leading people within that community at that moment. That's really cool.
We appreciate it. I mean, I think more modestly, we're just trying to be conveners and facilitators, and that bring together all of these brilliant people that we know, like you, are part of our creative community and have something unique to share with the world that we think will lift them up and hopefully see people different from themselves in a more positive light.
Right
So I
on.
think, yeah, what art just always opens you up to that. It allows you, it's almost like another vantage point on a person. Um, you may just in an everyday actually see somebody or something in one light. Well, somehow, if you look at it through the lens of music, through the lens of movement, through the lens of something visual, through color, paint, and the connection happens through those other mediums, which are the arts, then again, I just think it lends itself to appreciating one another more fully for whom we are in our humanity and in our creativity and in all of our diversity.
Love it. Love it. Well, I got a question for you guys. So if, say I'm a nonprofit organization and I'm looking to bring people together, I'm looking to build a community. I had a long, first quarter. First quarter's not over yet, but it's been a long first quarter so far. And I'm looking forward to, I want to have some kind of event. I want to bring people together. I don't know where to start, but I hear about Tribe Called Funk. Where can one find you online?
Sure. So we've got our website, that's our home base, which is a trike called funk.com. But we also have a strong presence on social media. So if you're on Facebook, it is also a trike called funk. And Instagram is where we're most active. But everything we do on Instagram and Facebook, it carries over and onto our website, which is why we said our website is our home base. And Eddie, is there any other place I should mention?
No, I mean, I would just say that, an organization like that is thinking about an event, we have different, I guess, offerings, whether it's just music and dance with me and Aaron, or if they want to have something more elaborate, we can have, a lot of our friends come in, do visual arts. We can have some friends come in and teach dance workshops. So we can also work with them to sort of, customize the experience so that it best suits their needs.
Love that.
Absolutely. And sometimes that means providing the narration for the program. So we've done, for example, you were talking about an organization wants to do something either for the community they serve or perhaps their employees. Well, we've done employee appreciation events where it's a celebration. Look at the strides we made in the first quarter. And so we become the think do partner of the organization who's ever sponsoring us to not only shape the experience and what that looks like, but at times we also provide the narration. I mean, we've even done that at weddings on a few rare occasions. But for employee appreciation, that's more in our lane, and it's a celebration of the people, what they've accomplished. And if we're not providing the narration, we always give those who are sponsoring first right of refusal as to whether or not they want to be the ones on the mic. We recognize they're bringing us in. It's their space and place. We want them to show up in the best way or in their preferred way. And so we take our cues from them. But again, for us, we've even done festivals, going from employee appreciation out to the community festivals, where based on the demographics of a community, like we did some things with Rockland, not far from Boston this past year. Well, Rockland has a lot of Latinos, Rockland has a lot of Brazilians, and they wanted a music and dance experience that was inclusive and reflective of that. So that's what we did. And we could do some of those things. That's part of our lived experience and practice. But we brought in people who are better than us, even better than us at those things, to teach the movement portions. And it was one part demo. They got to see what it was. There was so many of them being from parts of the world from which these traditions come, already knew it, recognized it. And then to learn a little bit, if you're less familiar with it. And for those that already knew it, it was just a chance to be a full version of themselves, reflecting that culture that is central to their identity. And that was a beautiful thing to see in that diverse community that had that particular makeup. So we love to be the think do partners to design the experience so that it brings out the best in the people who are bringing us there in the first place, but also the community that they are bringing together to celebrate in one way or another.
Love it. Love it. Oh, man, it's always a pleasure speaking to you guys, man. Thanks so much for coming on the episode. I'm glad we could talk about community and in the arts. I started saying music, but a community in the arts and what it does for people and how it brings people together. I think it's powerful. It's near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate you guys for sure.
We appreciate you. It's exactly what you've done for us, Carl. I mean, from Beantown Lockers to so many of the other things, from teaching dance to your podcast. You're a true entrepreneur and an inspiration, a mover and a shaker, and we are just following in your footsteps in our own unique way to the beat of a similar drum and doing the best we can by this community that we love.
Right on, right on, right on. Well, there you have it.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode.
And if you haven't already, please be so kind and give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And we'll see you soon. Peace.